to a new twist in the Mueller probe, and this is not about our show's interest in music. Everything I'm about to report for you is drawn directly from Michael Cohen's new legal filing. So here we go. According to Cohen's lawyers, what do the following people have in common? Boxer Floyd Mayweather, rapper DMX, singer Willie Nelson, actor John Travolta, hip-hop producer Swizz Beatz, and comedian Chris Tucker. If you're thinking they're all talented, no. Now, I'm about to get into this with a pretty great panel. If you're thinking all these celebrities push the envelope in their own fields, no. Now, here's the answer. Let's get to it. Each one of these people was name-checked by Michael Cohen in his new sentencing memo, asking federal prosecutors to spare him jail time. That's how you know it's the right answer.
Yeah, there you go.
That's also how you know you're on the beat.
There you go.
Also, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man. Air horns and all.
And all. Now, Cohen's lawyers do have a tough case because he pled guilty to several felonies. So they invoked these famous cases where convicts got less than they could have, like DMX, who faced up to 5 years but caught a 1-year sentence. We have reached the point in the Mueller probe where Trump's lawyer is using the DMX defense. Now, let's be clear. DMX had a harder life than Cohen, and in the case Cohen cites, DMX committed fewer felonies than Cohen, but the Yonkers rapper knows exactly what Cohen's doing. In fact, he's described this kind of desperate bargaining once by saying, "You can blame me for not wanting to be held, locked down in a cell where a soul can't dwell." And Willie Nelson, who owed the IRS $16 million in back taxes and never did time, well, his rap sheet was also lighter than Cohen's, who could have followed some of Nelson's classic advice. He said, "If you can truthfully say that you've been true just one day, well, that makes one in a row. If you can look into my eyes one time without telling lies, well, that makes one in a row." Michael Cohen lied to Congress. He lied to the IRS. He lied to a bank. He helped lie to the FEC. He lied to the public. Now he says he's starting to tell the truth, and if the judge spares him jail, it'll be on the belief that he's going to get on a roll that's more than one in a row. Let's get to it. Back with Maya Wiley, John Flannery, and comedian Chuck Nice. Nice to see you, everybody. What do you think of this defense?
First of all, you can't blame a man for trying, okay? That's the first thing. Can't blame him for trying, but all I can say is this. Did you see that video of DMX? You may not want to go to a judge and let that be the voice of reason.
We might be able to bring that back in a minute. You're talking about the idea you're invoking DMX, Rough Riders.
Right. Like, any sitting judge would probably look at that and be like, you know what, I'm going to increase your sentence. Look at that.
This is the Michael Cohen defense.
Black man in entertainment. That's what you use as like, hey, I should get a lighter sentence. And on top of that, I mean, let's be honest. Willie Nelson, you should never even invoke Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is beloved, okay? I couldn't name 3 Willie Nelson songs, and I love Willie Nelson, okay? There is no way. You are attached to the most polarizing figure in modern history. People can't determine whether they like Donald Trump or cholera better, okay? So, like, seriously, I can't believe that you are attaching yourself to, like, Willie Nelson. We love Willie Nelson. Nobody loves you. Nobody loves you, Cohen. I'm sorry.
Cohen is Willie Nelson. It's hard to imagine, and I don't think the judge would know who DHX is.
DMX.
I don't think
there it is.
I don't think you
exactly. I don't know who it is.
I don't know who DHX is.
I don't know. I never listened to
DMX he's a Yonkers rapper. He was very hot. He had 2 #1 albums in the same year. At one point, he was higher on the Billboard charts than Jay-Z, who you probably have heard of.
I do know.
And he was also known for his characteristic barking on track.
So his lawyers are rapper aspirants who have an argument that's not going anywhere, when the better argument is this guy has done so much for us. The 65 years he faces, which is nothing like the rapper did, is it's excessive. We got a lot out of this guy, including the plea last week. That's the argument, not the one that we're reading about.
Who we be, Ari?
Who we be?
Who we be?
The hurt, the pain, the dirt, the rain. So I think that's all we need to say on the subject.
You might want
but seriously now, there's nothing really historic about a white man thinking he should get less time in prison than a black man.
Okay.
So if we just stop right there, I think we know exactly what's going on.
Well, that goes to, so there's a pretty ridiculous part of this, right? And I think we've done service to that. But there is a serious part too. I mean, I'll read from the filing where they compare Michael Cohen to his government name, Earl Simmons, U.S. versus Earl Simmons, and they say, quote, a recording artist known as DMX engaged in a brazen multi-year scheme to fraudulently conceal millions of dollars in income. And they're basically arguing that Cohen should get the DMX treatment and get less than the fully sentenced guidelines max.
And if we dial it back, Michael Cohen did something most defendants don't do if ultimately they cooperate. They start cooperating before they go and then plead guilty, right? They say, let's figure out, I'm gonna come clean, I wanna come clean. Let's talk about this, let's come up with something, I think I have something to offer you because I wanna make this right. He pled guilty, which was already unusual for someone who was then going to start cooperating. And we know from some news reports there's a suggestion that he thought he was going to get pardoned by Donald Trump. So when you put that timeline and his initial hard to understand behavior into perspective, one narrative is that he was really holding out for a pardon that didn't come,
Well,
and then he thought it was.
And you're laying it down. You're laying it down. So, Chuck, that raises the question, to quote DMX again, was this a lot of chutzpah?
How do you think DMX would use that, right?
To answer that, I would say the other DMX, that just from what you said, would be snitches want to try, snitches want to lie, and then the rest of it I don't want to say.
Then it gets too rough.
Then it gets a little too
even
rough
for a Michael Cohen sentencing memo.
Right, but all I can tell you is this: Michael Cohen is not ride or die. See, you got to be ride or die in order to ask.
And I got to say, this came up when we were reporting on Cohen, and 50 Cent responded and said he ain't from the neighborhood, he's going to plead out, and then he did, and we've talked about that. And so, while obviously, as I mentioned at the top of our show, we are interested in these stories, there is something else bigger going in New York where Cohen and the people around him are always trying to compare him to these other people in this situation. The other point I want to make sure does not get lost here is, and the lawyers I think will appreciate this, they kept comparing to cases where there was a single count of back taxes that celebrities didn't pay, and they have their managers and their agents and all the issues. Michael Cohen is facing many counts, many felonies that he pled to,
5 years.
lying to all these different institutions.
Yeah, and you know, he's in this position where, but for the search, we wouldn't be able to put the lie to him. And but for Lanny Davis and Rudy Giuliani, he wouldn't have had this tape go out there that corroborated him enough that these deals were going on, paying off women for favors. And that just killed him. And he had a significant choice. And I think Lanny signed up because he was convinced this guy would now see the light and tell the truth. And he could be the most explosive thing that's happened. It's out of Washington. It's in New York. Do what you want to Mueller. This guy can take down the president.
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I know you're out of time. I'm not a lawyer, and I know all of you are. But I do watch an extraordinary amount of Law and Order.
That's it. That does it.
With that, I will tell you that when you give the right information, okay, you should get something in return. It's not quid pro quo, but that's the way DAs work.
Well, and Law and Order is also just the news in 2018 these days. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.